Hello and welcome to this video on ivy as a species for bonsai. This is a fast-growing and resilient species of vine or creeper which can be easily converted into a bonsai. Ivy is collectively known under the name of hedera. This covers a family of 10 to 15 different plants, with hedera helix or the English ivy being among the most common. They are a prone-growing, evergreen plant that is very woody. They can be found across the world from England to Japan and as far south as North Africa. On level ground, they are a creeping species not exceeding 20 centimeters. On suitable surfaces, they can grow up to 30 meters in height. The leaves come in two forms: a juvenile shape, which is lobed, otherwise known as palmated. Then there is the mature or adult leaves, which are cordate or unlobed. The species of ivy differ primarily in the shape of juvenile leaves. These vines have been introduced to most current and former member states of the British Commonwealth. English ivy, in particular, is capable of adapting to a wide range of environmental conditions. This is why they often become a noxious or invasive species. The advantages to this is that most specimens you find will be free to take and use depending on local regulations. A naturally growing ivy will have dark, evergreen leaves, with some exceptions that are red, brown, yellow, and seasonally changing. The development of both the juvenile and adult foliage is distinct. Juvenile leaves have between 3 and 5 lobes, produced on short to long flexible stems. Adult foliage is more consistent and is a single leaf. It will often be found in conjunction with flowers. The bark is a green or grey to brown or pale cream colour. It goes from smooth new growth to an increasingly rough in appearance mature growth. When you plant these out, in most cases you can use any regular soil or potting mix from your garden. There are few reasons to deviate from this, but the one that is of most interest is if you desire to keep your tree indoors. Watering is a little more trouble with the ivy species. They are by nature a creeper, and this leads to a wide leaf area that readily loses water. As you reduce the foliage size, this problem will be less significant. Before that point, ivy should be kept in line with most other trees, watered approximately daily in spring and autumn, increasing frequency in summer, and decreasing frequency in winter until you cease entirely. While you are watering your tree, consider whether or not you will use a solid or water-soluble fertilizer. If you are using either option, ensure that you use something with a high nitrogen content, preferably something with a ratio of 3:1:2 or 2:1:2. This should be applied 1 week, and in the second week a growth promoter. Repeat this throughout the entire growing season. Avoid the use of any soluble fertilizers that are high in salts. These will both adversely affect your tree and mar your pots. While you are feeding it aggressively, you will find it grows in response. This is why you prune back hard and throughout the entire growing season. This performs a number of functions. The first is that it establishes the trunk line. The second, to remove old growth. and the third is to ensure reduction in leaf size. Doing so will maintain the silhouette of the style you have chosen, but the important part is to reduce leaf size. This will ensure you have a corresponding and properly ratioed leaf to tree. If you are going to be cutting to maintain the silhouette, you need to choose an appropriate style. There are two main options, an informal upright and a cascading form. Both are viable with the species' normal growth habit. If you are going to be trying to style your ivy, you need to be able to control its growth appropriately. Wiring is the first option and is the go-to for most bonsai. As this is the first means you have, you need to be mindful that wire will quickly cut into the ivy's quickly growing branches. Keep an eye out for this and ensure the wire stays on the tree for the shortest period of time possible. Another option is to cut and grow. This is a matter of removing parts of or whole branches and letting them grow back as it will happen. There is no direction given with wire, and it is often up to chance as to whether or not you get a branch where you want it and how you want it. While you are looking at wiring your tree and you have already tried to prune and fertilize it, be very mindful of where you keep it. The most common option, English ivy, will produce best results if kept between 22 degrees centigrade and 32 degrees centigrade, with a humidity above 60%. Keeping your tree anywhere above 32 degrees centigrade during the day will adversely affect its growth and development. Anywhere below 20 degrees during the night will also adversely affect it. You are after somewhere that is relatively temperate. If you are going to move your tree indoors due to intemperate weather, do not repot or fertilize it for the first 4 weeks. It will take time for the tree to stabilize after being moved. The advantage to ivy over other species is that it will survive under relatively poor light conditions. Further to that, being kept in temperatures that are otherwise habitable inside a house will not adversely affect it. You will need to pinch out long stems that develop due to the poor light conditions, but this has the benefit of creating more compact growth and ramifications. For this reason, ivy is one of the better bonsai species to keep indoors. If you find it necessary, you should repot your ivy in spring or late winter. Using any standard mix makes this far easier than for other species. If you find yourself in a position where repotting is necessary outside of this, it is possible and will commonly occur with plants that are overcrowded. Ivy will survive being repotted any time of the year, but some are better than others. If you are looking at dividing an overcrowded plant, you should consider the following information on propagating. Use a mixture for cuttings that is made from between 40 and 60% peat moss. Combine this with a remaining part that is made from equal components of perlite and vermiculite. This should now have 3 ingredients. Use these in summer with semi-ripe cuttings of juvenile growth for anything that will be trained as a cascading plant. For anything that you want to turn into an informal upright, look to use mature cuttings in the same growth media. It's important to be mindful of what diseases you may be bringing in or taking out with your ivy. Although ivy is very disease resistant, there are a few that will commonly occur, and they are particularly important for those who are trying to propagate. The first is bacterial leaf spot, and this is commonly seen in samples, cuttings, and specimens removed from landscapes. Anything that has been in the garden could be subject to this. It is commonly a result of overhead watering systems which allow the movement of bacteria. It can be resolved using a copper-based treatment. The second is Phytophthora root rot and other rots that are seen in plants. These are another common result of taking a plant out of a landscape. It may also occur in greenhouses. Use of an appropriate fungicide will resolve it. These two are microbial. More commonly seen and slightly more difficult to treat are red spider mites, scale insects, and aphids. Use of an insecticide will resolve these, and anything suitable for the other trees in your collection will work. Ivy is good, especially if you have no choice but to keep your trees indoors due to living in an apartment or inhospitable environments. They are also able to survive poor treatment by beginners and experienced bonsai enthusiasts. They grow relatively quickly. They require no specialized tools, soil, or even pots. You can get away with treating them very poorly and have a very good result. For this reason, ivy is a good option, especially for beginners. It's also readily available, both from the environment in most developed countries in the West and easily sourced from nurseries. Thank you for watching this video. Please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Post any comments, questions, or suggestions below.